Green IT is something that's really relevant these days. And in the API space, of course, we could do something as well. And to talk a little bit about the things that you can do and point to something specifically, we have Phil Sturgeon here. So thanks, Phil, for joining. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Bit of a rough night with the UK election results, but I'm okay.
Yeah, I guess so. But at least the result wasn't so bad, right? So
Yeah,
that's a good thing. So let's talk a little bit about green IT in general, and also how it applies to practitioners, let's say in the API space or in like the more general space of writing software that tends to burn a lot of energy now, right? It's
yeah.
always, I think, amazing to hear the numbers where you think, well, it's just little computers, but there are a lot of them.
There's a lot of computers. Yeah, so the global emissions, like 4% of global emissions, are from the internet and all of the devices associated with that. So we have a massive footprint. That's roughly the same as flying. And you hear people should stop flying to save the planet. No one's saying, cancel your Netflix subscription, but there are things we can do to make the internet and software more efficient. And whilst some people are running off and making, AI toasters and all sorts of absolute nonsense that we really don't need, there are a lot of good services out there that we do need, that we could make more efficient to stop the 4% turning into 8%, which is currently what's projected. And some of that is basically there's three different bits, right? There's uh, software efficiency. Make your software better. This one's fairly obvious because most people just need to do this anyway. You've got, really bad MySQL queries that are doing n+1s all over the place. You should probably fix that anyway. But reducing waste of your software is important, because all the energy has a carbon footprint, right? There's the hardware efficiency, which is making sure your servers aren't getting completely knackered. You don't have too many servers for what you need just in case it gets busy. So you can scale down as well as up. And not just absolutely ragging them or running them inefficiently or overclocking them and getting hardware destroyed, because that hardware needs to be replaced. There's manufacturing emissions, water usage, rare earth minerals, whatever. And the third part is carbon awareness. So 1 kilowatt now and 1 kilowatt later don't necessarily have the same number of grams of CO2 associated with them. If you are running large, expensive computations at midnight because it was easier to pick 0000 in the cron job, you're doing that when there's obviously no solar in your data center, right? It's midnight. So if you can do things in locations and times of day where there is lower carbon intensity, then you're going to produce less CO2 from the exact same work that's being done. And if you delve into all of those three topics, there's so much that could be done. But the carbon awareness is something I think we just don't think about. You think, I've put my software in a data center that says it uses green energy, fantastic. But it's connected to the grid, and it's not always using the greenest energy. And so even when they match it, they're kind of saying, well, you used a few kilowatts of energy, and so we've matched that with a few other kilowatts. But you might be matching very, very CO2 heavy coal usage to train your AI models or whatever you're doing, and then some other solar happens some other time, but you still produced a lot more emissions than if you just ran your software at that other time.
When you talk about like the hardware efficiency and to use hardware in a good way, I'm just curious, like what's your opinion, or what should you do in terms of on-prem and cloud workloads? Like what is a good kind of strategy
Yeah.
there in your mind?
In theory, like on-prem is fantastic if you have the team to manage it. I mean, DHH has just been doing a whole thing about how much money they've saved kind of coming back from the cloud, and absolutely it can be cheaper and more efficient if you have qualified experts that are working on this stuff and you know what's going on. I think one of the most interesting stories I've heard recently is about companies building their data centers into the basements of buildings, so they can use the waste heat is no longer waste heat going out into the atmosphere, but they're actually piping it into like heat pumps and circulating the air to heat water and the atmosphere. So you can kind of do your own thing and be more efficient if you have money and time and the power to do all those things. But for the average person, I think sticking things on the cloud is the easiest way to have that expert doing the right things for you most of the time, especially with things like serverless. I've started running my APIs on serverless AWS serverless setups, and it literally like automatically scales down for me. And so if I, over the weekend, no one's buying my trees for my charity, that's fine. There's no service running, doesn't matter. And the next time someone tries to buy a tree, it's a little bit slow, but it warms back up again, and then all of a sudden the API is there. So I think, yeah, cloud and serverless can help most of the time.
So that's really interesting, right? To look at, okay, there are a couple of factors included, and it's not like this single decision every single time. So what can people do? I think we're still at a stage where I would say a lot of people don't think about this a lot. So
Yes.
I think you could say the potential is very big because we're
Yeah, huge.
currently not very educated. So what would you recommend? What are good steps to take so that at least we this becomes more something that we consider when we make design decisions?
Yeah, I mean, I think some companies out there are kind of frantically scrabbling around trying to work out how to track and reduce their carbon footprint because various countries are telling them they need to do that. They have to do their mandatory carbon accounting, and they're like, I don't know. So there's going to be more of a need for more of us to know how this stuff all works soon. Um, One of the best things you can do, the Green Software Foundation have a course. I think it's learn.greensoftware.foundation. But you can do this course. It's completely free, and they've got amazing resources, amazing materials, amazing little like diagrams and little illustrations that make all this stuff like as simple as possible. And you can just learn this stuff really quickly, like maybe half a day, maybe a day, but you can go through this course, learn a bunch of amazing stuff, and then you get a certificate at the end that you can plop on LinkedIn. So if any of these companies are having a bit of a panic trying to figure out how to get someone that can help them with their carbon footprint, they're going to find you, and you're going to get a great job. But yeah, do that course. I think everyone should do this course. Everyone listening to this, every software engineer, every infrastructure person, every database administrator, they could all learn something valuable, which can help steer their decision making over time, to help without even the companies involved being like, we must do a green thing. You're just going to know how to make the right decisions over time and make everything better than it would be if you didn't.
But you also had a good idea how the companies can get involved. I really like that idea of how people could actually take that course. So what would that look like?
Yeah, if you run a company and you have developers, you should ask them to do this. Make it mandatory, or just offer them some time off to do it. But literally, why don't you all have a work from home day and pass this course? Is a really good idea for companies. I mean, right now, everyone is looking for an article about how they're saving the planet, whether completely out of altruism or because they want to look good. Doing the right thing either way. I don't mind what your reasoning is. If you can basically, you could do an amazing blog post saying like, we've just got our engineers, green software practitioners certificates, and we're going to make sure that we make software in the most efficient way going forwards. Then that's a great story.
Yeah, we're green now. I mean, that, like you said,
Yeah,
right? It's not so important why you do it. If you do it, that's a good thing.
exactly.
So we'll link to that course from the video, of course. And then I think you also are planning on or thinking about how to look a little bit more specifically at what kind of API related people could be doing. So what
Yes,
would that look like? Just give us like a very brief preview, so to speak.
Yeah, I think the way in which we design our APIs to operate within the internet has been a little bit overlooked. And I've been kind of saying a lot of the same stuff for a while about compound documents being this big way to like fetch all the data all at once, and then you can't cache any of it because it's all munched in together. And how can you do that more efficiently with smaller, more targeted endpoints, splitting out things that are very cacheable and things that aren't very cacheable, and just generally trying to make your APIs just a little bit more sensible in how they hang out in the internet instead of being like arbitrary functions you call over the wire. That mindset switch is important for just making good, quick APIs, but it also has a large carbon impact. And there are tools out there to help you track that now, so you'll be able to like see the improvements happening as you make those changes.
Okay, I think I'm really looking forward to see those blog posts or kind of this guidance from you. I think there still is a lot of stuff, and there are, like you said, right, like caching and the granularity and so forth. There are a lot of like little knobs where we can twist, I think, and the better we know how
Yeah,
to twist them, the better for the planet, I guess. So thanks a
absolutely.
lot for being on, Phil.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always fun.
Yes. And I will link to all the resources that we mentioned from the description. And with that, we're done for today. Thanks everybody for watching. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And bye everybody.